So, hello, fellas, and welcome to another episode of Cybertalk. This actually starts. We're actually start getting into something here. I mean, we're building some momentum. This is our third episode, and in this show, if we can call it a show, we could, I guess, right?
Yeah.
We are actually answering your cybersecurity questions, and it's just an informal discussion between me and Alexis here. Like I said, in which we are answering your cybersecurity questions, which you can ask using the Google form, which is going to be linked in the description of this video. So if you have questions, go to the Google form and put them there, and hopefully at some point we're gonna get to your question. Right now there are many questions piled up, so we'll try to go through a few of them with each of these episodes. So that being said, let's do a quick round of introductions, and get moving forward to your questions. So I'm going to start. I'm Chris. I work in cybersecurity. My current focus is in penetration testing and bug bounty hunting. And I would say that I've been in the field for roughly 2 years, which is like still very little compared to a lot of the veterans out there, and compared to Alexis as well, because he's got a lot more experience than I do. And like I said, my main focus is penetration testing and bug bounty hunting. I've just recently started doing bug bounty hunting, and once I feel that I get good, or at least decent, at these two subfields of cybersecurity, I might want to progress into reverse engineering and malware analysis, which my co-host here, Alexis, has a lot more experience than I do. So yeah, that's all about me for now. Alexis?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So my name is Alexis. I work as a network penetration tester, and I've currently been working with the Linux kernel, so just working on kernel hacking. I've also gotten into reverse engineering and disassembly on quite a deep level as well. So that's what I've been focusing on primarily, and yeah, that's been extremely interesting. So that's primarily what I've been working on.
Are you also actually doing penetration testing, or just focusing on?
Yeah, I do work on pen testing. Of course, I play CTFs with various CTFs, and of course, the Hack the Box, Vulnerable. So I do delve into pen testing quite a bit, but of late, my focus has primarily been around Linux, the Linux kernel. So
I guess that's really exciting, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's jump into the first question, which says, and I'm going to read here: I am currently a senior in high school. I have messed around with Python, Kali, Termux. Termux is actually a mobile application. I don't think they do have. Do they have like a laptop-based thing, or is it just mobile? Do you know, Alexa?
I think it's just Android, so primarily mobile.
Okay, so Termux and CompTIA Network Plus, just trying to get into pen testing. My plan is to self-study some networking and Python a bit, and I'm planning on going to a community college for cyber defense, get an internship for experience, then self-study more, and go for eLearn security network pen tester path. So this is like a description of what this fellow is into. Then learn Python with networking, because I don't want to be a skid, which is actually a script kiddie. Okay, is my plan good enough, he asks. How do I self-study better and more effectively? What do you say, Alexis?
Yeah, so I have quite a bit of experience with this, as I'm a network penetration tester myself. So I think for the most part, you've got it right in regards to what you're focusing on, that being Network Plus, and then also taking a look at Python as well. So I think focus first primarily on Network Plus. If you can also take a look at Security Plus, because there's a lot of valuable information there, to do with networking as well to a certain extent. But if you're self-studying, I would recommend starting off with networking. So Network Plus, as you just mentioned, the most important part here is to learn about the TCP IP stack, and of course, the entire OSI model, the OSI model on its own, because there's a lot of information stuff that, a lot of important stuff that you'll require there. Secondly, I would say start working with various operating systems. When I say this, I mean with Windows and Linux, so that you understand how networking essentially behaves and interacts with those two operating systems, and so sort of get an understanding of how they work and their inherent network weaknesses or vulnerabilities that they suffer from. So that's a very interesting caveat there. I would then say start focusing on writing your own scripts. These are network scripts, of course, using either Python or Bash scripting. So you can start off with simple scripts like the ping sweep scripts, and then start focusing on vulnerability scanners, port scanners, and you can once you essentially learn that, it'll just start opening up your creative side, so you can start working on other network scripts that you can use when performing pen tests. So focus on scripting as well. It's going to be really useful in automating a lot of scans, a lot of custom scans, whether they be focused on particular vulnerabilities on a larger network. So very important. And finally, as you said, you wanted to use eLearn Security as a sort of your launching pad for getting into network penetration testing through the network pen tester path. So I would say that's a great starting point. And then on top of that, you can start playing around with vulnerable boxes and sort of work on creating your own network environment. This is something that's quite interesting, especially when creating your own network and subnet, and also working on a DMZ. So that'll become very interesting. And then you can also go for the offensive security certification, so OSCP. That also is very, very useful and will come in handy when working with networks. So that's basically what I think.
Okay, so you've actually kind of nailed it. What I would actually want to re-emphasize something that you've said, is that of actually doing or building or writing their own scripts, or writing his own script. I don't know, is this he or she? Anyways, either way, writing your own scripts is really important, because this is how I feel. So from a personal perspective, I feel that one of the best ways to learn something is to actually try to do it yourself. And of course, try to teach someone else, like we are doing on YouTube. I've actually learned a lot by trying to put myself in front of the camera or in front of the screen and record the screen, and trying to show what I'm learning to other people, because it kind of puts you in sort of a different mindset, so to speak. To re-emphasize, it is really important when you learn something to actually try to do it yourself. So in this case, if you write your own scripts, and we're talking about network penetration testing, oh my God, there's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, try to build an IP scanner, or try to, in Bash and Python, try to see which one works better. Try to kind of automate steps of your penetration test using Bash or Python. Both of them are really, really good, and Bash can be really fast, and you can also make Python faster by actually threading, by using threading. Of course, it's not going to be as fast as C++, but I mean, you're going to write a Python script much faster, and it's going to be much easier to actually it's going to be much easier to do it, because you have a lot of modules. I mean, there are tons of libraries for networking, including Scape, And you can also actually use those the simple library, the socket library, which would be, I would start with the socket library for network programming, because that's like, it comes in the standard Python library, and that's like Basecamp. It's ground zero, I would say, for networking. So getting back to the main thing here, self-studying better. Self-studying better is, you would achieve this by everything that Alexis said here, and my re-emphasis on actually doing things yourself. It's not like passively learning from a book or from a course, but actually trying to get your hands dirty and try to do stuff yourself. Hopefully this is helpful. Okay. Any other pointers you want to add, Alexis, or we just move to the next one?
No, you pretty much explained the part I left out in regards to actually, doing what you're learning as opposed to just passively going through it. So no, you hit the nail on its head there.
I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I am one of the people who actually learns by doing, but I feel that I'm really learning better or faster by actually doing stuff, because I myself, in my learning, I'm actually combining multiple learning methods, but I feel that the best that works for me is like trying to do stuff myself, informal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so question number 2. I have completed CEH, which is Certified Ethical Hacker, and learning Python for hackers. I am looking for, so what? I have completed CEH and learning Python for hackers. I am looking for a pen testing guide. How can I learn more about pen testing to get a job? So no question mark, no nothing, no punctuation, but we'll try to understand what they want to say. You want to take it, Alexis?
Yeah, so first of all, for some weird reason, people actually think CH is like a pen testing certification. Let me just clarify that it really isn't, and it's primarily just a certification that focuses on educating students in the essentials of security. So it's sort of an introductory certificate, similar to what you would get with CompTIA Security Plus, right? So it has nothing to do with actively engaging targets, although it might cover that, but it really doesn't focus in a practical way. I do know that they have introduced CH Practical, which sort of has live labs where you can practice these techniques, but typically speaking, CH is not a pen testing certificate. So I think the answer to the question is if you want to get a job, you need to get fairly good at pen testing, and one of the ways of doing this is by, of course, getting your hands dirty with pen testing. So there's many ways of doing this. You can start off with various courses or books, and you can then start putting into action what you're learning, similar to what Chris said previously in the previous question. So you can start testing it out with vulnerable boxes from vulnerable or hack the box, just to get an idea of the various tools you'll be using in pen testing, understanding how it works, actively exploiting a target, stuff like that. So start working on getting your hands dirty, and then you will very quickly identify areas where you're lacking in terms of skill or knowledge. So your next step should be to remedy these gaps, or to try and fix or to try and improve where you're actually lacking. So there are many ways you can do this. You can take a look at various books. One of the books I recommend is the Hacker's Playbook. It's a great introductory book that really covers the essentials. So I think there are about 3 books in the collection now. So you can start off with those ones. Yeah. And then I think once you've nailed down where you're making mistakes or where you're going wrong and you've remedied them, you can then start working on your own pen testing methodology. So again, just understanding how you yourself will go through certain pen tests, depending on whether it may be a black box test or a white box test or even a gray box test. So building your own methodology, I feel, is extremely important. And then finally, of course, is to get your entry-level pen testing certificate. And of course, that's going to be OSCP. That's pretty much the standard now. I know there are plenty of other certificates like from eLearn Security, but one of the most recognized options is going to be OSCP, and that to some extent will guarantee that you'll get a job if you're well prepared for it. So that's personally what I think.
Okay, solid answer. So they actually, their main point is, how can I learn more about pen testing to get a job? And what I want to highlight here, aside of what you were saying, which I think is complementary to what you're saying, is that in my view, what's more important is what you know when it comes to getting a job than what kind of certification you have. I cannot evaluate how good CEH is, but in my understanding, it's probably good. I mean, if you're just starting out in the field, it actually gets you acquainted or familiarized with a lot of the methodology or the technicalities that are in cybersecurity, and that's a good thing. It may become, I kind of know that it wasn't too practical. It was more like theoretical so far, but as you've said, since they've added the practice labs, it might be more technical. Do they still have is the exam still multiple choice, or is it practical?
I think for the standard CH certification, it's still multiple choice. I'm not sure about the practical certification. They probably have some level of attacking actual labs. So I'm not really sure there.
Okay, so yeah, that probably doesn't matter. It's my point was that it's what you know, that what more important than what type of certification you have. Because if you're going to a job interview, of course certifications are good, and they can actually open a lot of doors. But if you don't know this, if you don't know what you should do in a job, I mean, a certification wouldn't help you. You would be able to get a job. It's more likely that you would be able to get a job without a certification if you're really good at what you're doing, than with a certification that has been obtained, not necessarily, maybe a one that has been obtained fraudulously, or a certification that doesn't teach you a lot of the stuff that's actually in a pen testing job. Because I would say that certifications might not 100% reflect what you would have to do in a job. They might show you scenarios, potential scenarios, but in real life, you often realize that it's much more different than what you've learned passively. So anyway, my point was to my emphasis was on, it's more important what you know compared to a certification. And in terms of, you've mentioned they should start doing their own penetration testing methodology. If they do not know how to develop that, there's the standard penetration testing methodology, which comprises of at least 5 stages from what I know. They could go through that penetration. They could take that as a start point, the penetration testing methodology, and actually develop their own unique perspective on that, of course, following it. So yeah. Any pointers to that, Alexis?
Yeah, I think it's very good advice in regards to what you just pointed out. I think it's very important to actually pursue knowledge rather than an actual certification. So, to hold up knowledge as a better value, as opposed to, just thinking it's all about certifications and stuff like that. And again, thank you for adding the little caveat there in regards to the pen testing methodology, the standard one. That's a great starting point as well. So yeah.
All right. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which says, so question 3, which book or web pages or resources do you recommend to learn all about ethical hacking and penetration testing? So I feel like we kind of answered or we kind of touched upon this question in previous, in the first or in the second episode, but we could re-emphasize some of the main points from then. What do you say, Alexis? So,
yeah. So this question is quite broad in regards to what it's asking for, because there's tons of resources. All I can do is simply just point you in the direction of a great starting point, and then you can sort of build up from there. So, starting off with books, which was the first question, I always recommend the Hacker Playbook. If you're a beginner and you're looking for an entry point.
That's by Peter Kim, right?
Yes. So it's typically the entire collection. I think is the third version was also released I think last year. I'm not too sure, but
2018.
Those are excellent books, right? And they'll sort of give you a starting point into pen testing. The second one that I feel is like a must-have is like the Red Team Field Manual. That primarily like has all the important and useful commands that, well, not commands, but just nifty tips and tricks that you'll find extremely useful when performing a pen test. So that's the second one. I would also say the other one was I can't remember the author, but it's a fantastic book, and it's actually one of the recommended readings for pen testers. It's I think it's called Penetration Testing, the hands-on introduction to hacking or something like that. It's quite an old book at this point, and I believe there is a second version being worked on, but that pretty much covers like everything you could possibly be interested in regarding.
I don't think I know that one.
It's an excellent book, and the reason I recommend it is because, again, as I said, it covers like every stage of the pen test and breaks everything down so that you can understand it. And of course, the final one I recommend, and it's one of my personal favorites, is I think it's Hacking: The Art of Exploitation. And it really isn't related to pen testing per se, but it's an excellent book in regards to working with exploits and stuff, like writing your own exploits as well. So very useful, something that you might want to check out later on once you're a bit more competent at what you're doing. In regards to websites, I think, in my opinion, the greatest starting point is obviously going to be Cybertalk, because they have quite a few free courses, and I think it's a fantastic resource for the community. Truly great resource. That's pretty much where I would push anyone who's looking for a starting point. When talking about actual labs and practicing your skills, there's tons of sites. As you know, we've talked about Hack the Box, VulnHub. There are a few others. So for example, we have Pentester Lab. We also have Attack Defense and Pentester Academy, which are, I think, are also high up there, but of course they require a subscription of sorts. So for those of you who are interested in taking that route and having an active subscription to these services, they're truly excellent services. But for a free resource, all I can say is that Cybertalk is the best, and of course the books that I've mentioned can supplement that. But you will find additional resources as you move along. So that's pretty much all that I have to say, and the resources that I think are the best.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll link to all of these resources in the description of this video. What I want to add here, so aside of these amazing resources, I would say that in terms of books, one of my reference books, which is still, I mean, it's a book from 2011. It's the Web Application Hacker's Handbook by Defeat Stuttered. Yeah. That even though it's like an older book, it still pretty much applies to a lot of the methodologies and a lot of the practical stuff that's going on today in terms of pen testing web applications. So yeah, Web App Hacker's Handbook. And I might have a few other titles, but those would be more like for bug bounty hunting, but the question asks ethical hacking and penetration testing. So I don't know, maybe we'll approach bug bounty hunting in another episode. in terms of library, in terms of web resources, Cybery, yes, it's one of the best out there because they have a lot of stuff for free. Back like a year ago, everything on Cybery, I believe, was free, but I think at the beginning of 2019, they started adding some paid content or content behind a subscription. They're inside their pro subscription, which is like $100 a month. I've actually tested that out, and I have to say that it's really good. They have a lot of practice labs with real world scenarios, which is what I like. I don't like CTF-like stuff. They have a lot of real world scenarios from different providers. So if you go, for example, on Hack the Box, all the boxes there are made like in a similar way. So you have a box, a Linux box or a Windows box, you have to get a flag and stuff like that. But the practice labs on Cybery, let's say on a topic, for example, SQL injection, you have the lab, you have labs from multiple providers giving you different types of approaches towards exploiting SQL injection. And that's really important because you learn from a multi-perspective, and that, in my view, is of course better. So Cybery is the good way to go. I mean, they don't have free labs from what I know, but they have free courses. One of the good courses, I believe is still free, is Georgia Whitman's Advanced Pen Testing. That would be a good start, even though it says advanced pen testing. I'm not really sure if it's advanced. It's one of the first courses from what I know on Cybery. And also from what I know, Georgia is working, maybe so I think I know she's working on the second edition of her book. And I believe she's also working, hope I'm not wrong, she's also working on the second edition of the course. So that course by Georgia Weidman on Cybery, and also the course by Ken Underhill on penetration testing.
Yeah.
Those are two good ones to start.
She's actually the author of the book that I just mentioned, Hands-On Introduction
to
Hacking.
Yeah, right. Of course.
So
I don't know why I thought. I mean, it didn't ring a bell when you said the title, but
you know it from the cover.
Yeah, so we'll actually link to Georgia's book in the description, and hopefully she's going to release the second edition soon.
Yeah.
So in terms of another platform, that would be Attack Defense Labs. You mentioned it, Alexis. I'm not sure how much you've practiced on Attack Defense Labs. I've practiced a little, and I've done quite a few videos on Attack Defense. I think they have a lot of potential. Right now, their subscription is around like $35 to $40 a month, which I would say is worth it. It's definitely worth it because you have a lot of scenarios, and most of them are real world, lifelike scenarios, divided into like tons of categories. Stuff like network recon, real world web apps, traffic analysis, Metasploit, offensive Python, cracking, infrastructure attacks, secure coding, reverse engineering, forensics, and I'm actually reading from their website here. Malware analysis, exploit research, cloud security, a lot of good stuff. So I would say Attack Defense Labs would be worth a try. And maybe in another episode, we're gonna do some of these challenges live with you guys. And this is something that we wanted to touch upon. These generic questions, generalized broad perspective questions are good. We like answering them, but we also want to emphasize the fact that we want to see more technical questions over here. So Alexis said that he's doing malware analysis, and he's doing kernel stuff. I think he would be more than pleased to actually answer some questions related to that topic, more technical questions. And I, of course, would enjoy like answering questions related to bug bounty hunting and penetration testing. So yeah, make sure to leave us more questions, more technical questions in the Google form linked in the description. Okay, so we went off a tangent there. So let's get back to this. I think it's the last question.
Yeah.
So it says, I believe it's question number 4. Is jumping to different categories of cybersecurity a bad thing? Demonstrate it is. How would someone do this without negative consequences, if any? Alexis?
Yeah, so this is a question that I get asked a lot, not particularly online, but I get it asked by a lot of students. And I think what they end up, finding themselves doing is like constantly switching from specialization to specialization, and some of these students are conscious about it, which is a good thing. And yes, as you just said, it does have a negative effect, because you're pretty much just studying a little bit of everything. You're not really going in depth into anything and building up skills. So I understand that it happens when you're a beginner, and the reason it happens, I've actually discovered this. One of the prime reasons it happens with students or beginners is because they feel that if they jump to another category or a specialization, it'll be much easier than the one they're in. So they're actually looking for much easier stuff to do, which again I can understand, but it isn't a good way of approaching things. In fact, it's the harder things that are the most rewarding things to learn and to master. So yes, it can be extremely negative. However, if you are a beginner or a student, I understand why you're doing it. You might be doing it to learn more about the various specializations and the categories, and that is important, because to some level they also overlap. So pen testing could overlap with with malware and malware analysis, and I totally get that. However, I think the first thing to do is to establish a good presence in one domain, and to build up your skill there. And then after you've done that and you're reputable in that particular field, you can then start delving into other things that interest you. But as a beginner or a student, it can be very negative, because you'll find yourself just wasting time, constantly switching from field to field. So that's personally what I think.
I would say that it's actually mentally draining to try to move from one thing to another, to the next shiny thing. And
Yeah.
it's really hard these days to actually be super focused because I'm not really sure if we're actually mentally built to be able to exercise focus the way we should these days. Because if you really want to get good at something, you have to focus on that something. And this is actually a no-brainer, right? If you want to get good at pen testing, do pen testing until it spills out from your brain. It like spills through your ears. It's depth versus breadth. So if you want to go deep, you have to have extreme focus. And I don't know, we are living in a world today in which we're probably living in a world deficient in focus. And there are a few resources, I mean, these are not cybersecurity related, that would help one be better at focusing at something instead of jumping to the next shiny thing, because there's an opportunity cost there. So, and you're not winning. You're not winning if you move from one thing through another, because you're jack of all trades and master of none, of course. And one of the resources I would suggest to someone, I mean, these are books. There's a book by Cal Newport called Deep Work, which is really, really good. I would also I would also suggest, if someone wants to get good at something, I would also suggest Focus by Daniel Goleman. It's not as good as Deep Work, but it's a decent reading. And there was another book, which I don't remember the title. I think it was by Nir Eyal. I'm actually going to link it in the description. I don't want to butcher the title or the name of the author. But these resources would actually help you concentrate or focus on one thing until you master it. Of course, there's a really good book by Robert Greene, Mastery, which is definitely a must read if you want to like be able to stay away from ever chasing something else and never actually getting good at something. So this was like kind of maybe an unexpected answer to this question. So yeah. Do you have anything to add to it, Alexis?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the book Mastery, because a trend that I've been seeing similar to what he mentions in the book is, you know, just chasing what's new and shiny, as you mentioned. And what's new and shiny might be, you know, a new specialization that might offer, you know, job opportunities in quotes. We all know about those type of opportunities. And secondly, some people may be motivated by money, which in the early stages of your career shouldn't be something you should be interested in, or it shouldn't be something that you have fixated as your main objective. So I think this is what's becoming the real problem. And you see it with all of these cybersecurity fields. Many students, you know, when you ask them why they're getting into cybersecurity, will answer, you know, I want to get a good job. And that's totally understandable. But your main objective in the early stages of your career should be advancing your knowledge, as opposed to, you know, just focusing on money, which I totally understand, by the way. And again, it's just about what you have prioritized. And as you said, depth is extremely important when it comes down to your particular career.
Yeah, so money will get you material satisfaction until some point. You can buy a lot of stuff with money. Money is good. I mean, money can be good or evil depending on how you use it. But deep satisfaction, like inner satisfaction, is not something that money is going to get you.
Absolutely.
Deep satisfaction would be probably you mastering a certain subfield of cybersecurity and actually seeing the results of your work, seeing positive results of your work in cybersecurity out there. That's what's going to get you satisfaction. Because I see a lot of people that make a lot of money in different fields, not necessarily in cybersecurity, but they are not satisfied because they don't have anything else other than money as a result of their work. And that's like, it probably feels like shit, I think.
Absolutely. And as you just said, there's no, you can't really show anything for all the hard work you've put into. And again, you just find out that you put all your hard work in for money, and money can't buy mastery nor achievement. So yeah.
Definitely. Well put. Extremely well put. Okay, so we're kind of close to the end. Let's actually answer another like quick question that we have here, which is sort of like not necessarily super related to maybe the technical stuff of cybersecurity. So it says, so this would be an additional or an auxiliary question. What is something you would have told your younger self not to do? Or in other words, what is something you wish you didn't do looking back into your journey to this career? So I kind of have to correct myself. It is pertinent to cybersecurity. What is something you wish you didn't do looking back into your journey in cybersecurity, in your cybersecurity career? What do you say, Alexis?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I haven't really looked back or reflected on it from a cybersecurity perspective, but I think what I would say is it's very important to to listen to what your peers have to say. And when I say peers, I mean, you know, the people you look up to in the form of a mentor. And, you know, I think I ignored some advice from mentors or people who are, you know, really, really high up there in terms of cybersecurity in the industry. And I can understand why I did it. But again, I think in the early stages of your career, it's extremely important to listen for feedback. And that'll really tell you where you're making mistakes, where you're going wrong, because they've done it, and they're just trying to help you and, you know, get you the shortest path through this without you making the mistakes that they did. So I think that's just one that I would say I would look back on and say, you know, yeah, I should have actually listened instead of going my own way and trying it out myself. So I think that's extremely important.
Okay, so those who are just starting out, make note of what Alexis said. So what is something I wish I didn't do looking back into my journey in cybersecurity? And my answer to this would be related to the answer to the previous question. I wish I would have been more focused on a single thing, because I know that I jumped into a lot of stuff ever since I got acquainted or I got myself familiarized with what cybersecurity is. I know that I've tried a lot of stuff, and I was going into these different like topics, avenues, subfields of cybersecurity, and of course, I never felt that I actually learned something like solid in any of them until I started focusing on a single thing. And that single thing was for me penetration testing. When I started like focusing specifically on penetration testing, that at that point I decided that I want to get a certification, and I went for the OSCP, and that was my commitment to the fact that I want to focus on a single thing. And my commitment, of course, came with the fact that, so I felt more motivated to keep doing what I'm doing, to focus on one thing, was the fact that I had to pay $1,000 for the certification. So, I mean, I never paid for a certification. That was like something kind of unfamiliar to me. And it actually made me stick to it and try to devote the most of my time to try to make the best of those 2 months that I learned and that I practiced to get my OSCP. So yeah, my answer is I wish I would have focused on only one thing. And this, I would say, is not only applicable to cybersecurity, but to anything you want to do in life. If you wanna be good, go deep. Yeah. So I think that we're kind of out of time with this episode. And I would actually have to remind everyone that you can leave your questions in the Google form, which is linked in the description of this video. You can also find us. We'll also link our social media presence, our Discord channels, our each other's YouTube channels, our Twitter, and all that stuff. We're gonna link everything in the description, everything that we said. So yeah, once again, give us more technical questions.
Yeah.
And with that said, I would say thank you for watching. Thank you, Alexis. And I'm really looking forward to actually move forward with this cyber talk.
Yeah, thanks a lot for being with me, Chris. And this is just becoming extremely exciting, and we're really getting very good questions. So we want to thank you for that, first of all. And as Chris just said, you can find out more about this episode or this series in the description section. You can post your questions there, and we'll have all our links in the description section. So again, leave us any questions you may have, and we're open to very technical questions as well. So thank you very much so far for watching this series, and thank you for staying with us, and we'll be seeing you in the next episode.